Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche Organization with your daily video update for December 28th, 2023. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the panic which is emerging in the Anglo-American financial establishment over the consolidation and expansion of the BRICS. The BRICS, as of January 1st, will be adding Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia to its core membership of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Possibly Argentina as well, although that's not determined for sure. But there's a clear panic which is developing over this, especially since there are very troubling signs for the financial system over dollar weakness, over the collapse and contraction of the physical economy overall. The U.S. is leading the pack with $34 trillion in federal debt. And the only way to cover that is to maintain the control of the world financial system through the dollar. And at the same time, you have, as an example of the weakness in Europe, the Bundesbank, the German central bank, announcing that the German banking system is filled with unrealized losses. Unrealized because they haven't been forced yet to sell their bonds, but the German banking system is filled with worthless paper, or certainly with vastly reduced buying power in the paper they're holding. Now, this is on top of the increased wariness among the global South about the role of the dollar, the reaction to the use of sanctions, the seizure of foreign assets, and so on, has created an absolutely negative direction when it comes to the consideration of working with the dollar. Now, this situation has not gone unnoticed by the neocon war hawks at the Atlantic Council, which is one of the leading think tanks of the Anglo-American establishment. They've had two articles recently by Thomas Hill, a former State Department official who specialized in North Africa. In a December 26th article, he wrote, titled, "BRICS-led de-dollarization should alarm the United States." And he said that Washington cannot afford to ignore this, that it may require federal intervention, it may require congressional action. He doesn't offer any specific proposal, but it certainly is designed to ring the alarm bells in policymakers in Washington. Now, this article follows an earlier one which was posted on the Atlantic Council website. That one was titled, "China's De-Dollarization Message Finds a Receptive Audience in North Africa." And he warns that the BRICS expansion will contaminate North Africa and Arab countries. Now, this is rich in irony because what's contaminating the dollar system is the policy of the West, the use of the dollar, the weaponization of the dollar to maintain their financial control. And, what he's doing in this is trying to, besides warning Western policymakers, issue veiled threats to countries that are not yet in the BRICS. There are more than 40 countries that are looking at possible BRICS membership. And his focus in this article is on Egypt, as well as Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, which are countries which are quite wealthy, at least Saudi and the Emirates. And also the trade deals with China and the expansion of such institutions as the Greater Arab Free Trade Organization that are functioning now outside the dollar. And he writes that the two countries in North Africa that will be immediately influenced are Algeria and Tunisia. Now, some of the things he points toward is the fact that Egypt has now issued yuan-based bonds for trading purposes, that Russia now includes the Egyptian pound in setting the ruble exchange rate. And overall, he talks about the move toward national currencies, going outside of things such as the SWIFT trade financing mechanism, which until now has been the only acceptable operation for exchanging currencies and valuing and working for trade. Now, he said this is not only going to move toward new institutions, but will affect U.S. fiscal health. Now, this recognizes that U.S. control of financing is essential for sustaining the dollar at a point of growing deficits. The trade system, by orienting it or balancing it in favor of the dollar, is essential for providing liquidity, cheap imported goods, and so on, through financial warfare to maintain the unimpeded flow into the dollar. And therefore, they assume, as you hear from Janet Yellen and others, that the deficit is not a problem. Well, as long as you can loot other countries, it's not a problem. But if those other countries say, we're not going to go with this anymore, we have our alternative system, then the dollar looting operation is lost. Now, the Atlantic Council has set up something called the Dollar Dominance Monitor, which is supposedly to monitor the development of this de-dollarization. But what it really is intended to do is map out operations against the BRICS countries. Now, one operation which has been largely run through Blinken and the State Department is the effort to pull India out from the BRICS. Well, that's just suffered a tremendous blow with the visit of Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar to Moscow, where he's gone for 5 days of talks. He met with Lavrov, the foreign minister. He has a meeting with Putin. He referred to Russian-India relations as historic and called Russia a valued and time-tested partner. The agreements include cooperation on North-South Transport Corridor, which is extremely important for both energy and trade overall for India. Finalizing the India-Eurasian Economic Union Free Trade Agreement, those are talks that are underway. And agreements include discussions on strategic policies, including Ukraine and the Middle East, military technology sharing. Russia is a very important partner for India in this. Energy, especially nuclear, and coordination of space policy. Now, what this shows is the potential for cooperation among members of the Global South with countries such as Russia and China. And that's what they fear. That's what the Atlantic Council intends to stop. But as you'll hear when you listen to my discussion with Helga Zepp-LaRouche yesterday, our weekly dialogue, what she said is that 2024, the coming year, should be a year of cooperation, not confrontation. And that's the policy that's coming from the BRICS. Confrontation from the Anglo-American side, but cooperation from the Global South. Now, the Atlantic Council, which is at the center of this warning against the BRICS, is a leading think tank of the military financial complex. In the 2021 financial report, just to give you an example of this, they report that they received $22.6 million from corporate conglomerates, especially in finance. This includes Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Pfizer. It includes tech firms such as Google, Amazon, and Facebook. Interestingly, left and right pro-unipolar foundations, with $4 million from these foundations, including Soros's Open Society, supposedly a left-wing operation, and the Charles Koch Institute, supposedly a libertarian or conservative organization. The Koch Institute is lining up behind Nikki Haley for president. And $7 million from governments, including the U.S. Department of Defense and the State Department, the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the Royal Norwegian Ministry of Defense, the European Union, and the German Federal Foreign Office. So these are all the agencies that contribute to the Atlantic Council to put out reports such as the ones I've just mentioned to you. Now, they're involved in a total effort as well, the Atlantic Council, to keep funds flowing into the NATO proxy war against Russia in Ukraine, and to keep the Israeli offensive against Gaza going. which has an impact, especially on nations in that area, including the UAE, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia, the new BRICS members. And so they're involved in what they call a defense of the democracies of the rules-based order, which in reality is a looting operation on behalf of their corporate sponsors, backed up by US NATO military operations. Now, this is the military financial complex, which has to be disarmed. The ability to control policy through contributions to politicians, through lobbying, through control of the media, is oriented to sustain the United States as the sole superpower, so that the weaponization of the dollar will continue to provide wealth to the billionaires who control these corporations, while taxing ordinary citizens to continue the wars that enable the flows of money to keep going into their coffers. I'm going to provide a link, two links today in the description section. One of the interview I did with Helga Zepp-LaRouche yesterday, our weekly dialogue, where she discussed these questions in some detail. And secondly, the new leaflet produced by the LaRouche organization, which details what exactly is the military financial complex. Now, since tomorrow is Friday, I'll be taking your questions. You can send them to me at harleysch@gmail.com. Questions and comments. Let's keep this dialogue going and extend it outward, because this is the kind of intelligence that's needed for citizens to decide what they're going to do if we intend to make 2024 a year of cooperation and not of confrontation and war. Hello, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Support our independence to produce videos like these. Become a member of the LaRouche organization at thelarouche.org/member. By becoming a member for $25 or more, you'll get special access to the EIR Alert Daily Briefing and Weekly Magazine, which is what I read to stay on top of things.